Hey guys, welcome back. It's Monday the 30th. We're in week 3 of our remote learning and our last week before break. So I'm sure you guys are all excited about that. We're going to be starting with English with promises to keep. I'm going to quickly read page 21 to you just to kind of remind you where we were because it's been over the weekend. Just kind of discuss the idea that the war was ending. Jackie's going back home, even though he wasn't fighting overseas or anything like that. He was just on base. But we'll talk about that and kind of move into more of eventually his baseball career. And then I have a few things that I'm going to be sending to you in an email today to complete, but I'll explain it just because I can see you getting confused if you don't walk through it with me step by step. So make sure you pay attention to the last part of this lesson, just because I'll kind of walk you through exactly how to do it. All right? So, without further ado, so starting on 21, neither Dad's rank of second lieutenant nor his college athletic celebrity protected him against the humiliation of serving in a segregated army in the Deep South. Dad served as a morale officer, yet could do nothing about the fact that the baseball team was segregated, whereas the football team was not. One way he protested this injustice was by refusing to play any sport for the Army. Toward the end of his stint in the armed forces, my father faced Jim Crow head-on. During a bus ride from the Army base in town, the bus driver ordered my father to the back of the bus, a section for black people only. Dad ignored the command. He knew his rights as a soldier. An argument followed and Dad was arrested. Later, he had to defend himself in a military court. The charges were dismissed. On November 28, 1944, Dad was honorably discharged from the Army. A year later, America and her allies declared victory over Hitler. With the war over, attention turned to peace at home. All right, so you can see here, this photo here, all right, is armed service members at the end of the war, all right, and they're in Paris, all right, which is a city that was occupied by the Nazis, and when they won the war, they were liberated or freed, all right. So now we're coming to 1945. The World War II is over, all right, so it's 1945, a changing world. After the Army, Dad worked for a year as a coach at the Houston-Tilliston College in Austin, Texas. He then played baseball in the Negro Leagues for one season in 1945. That was the only league open to an African-American ball player at the time. Between 1888 and 1947, black ball players were restricted to the Negro Leagues. The Negro Leaguers played a unique and exciting style of baseball that entertained millions in small towns and big cities across America. Negro League teams gave us great players such as Satchel Paige, Josh Gibson, Willie Mays, and Henry Hank Aaron. Despite the glory associated with the Negro League baseball, it was still a part of a discriminatory system. Major League Baseball had an unwritten policy that kept non-white players out of organized baseball. Black ball players were denied the opportunity to play in the major leagues. Salaries were lower in the Negro Leagues, the schedules were less structured, and when the teams traveled south, they were forced to follow Jim Crow laws. Because of its inequalities, Dad questions his future in professional baseball. Although my dad knew that the black press, some liberal sports writers, and a few politicians were fighting for an end to Jim Crow baseball, he had little faith that it would happen in his lifetime. Little did Dad know that the change was close, or that he was the prime candidate to break down the racial barrier. The end of World War II signaled a turning point in America in many ways. Segregation was one area that was certain to change. The black veterans returning from World War II were more determined than ever to abolish segregation. In 1948, President Harry S. Truman announced an end to segregation in the U.S. military. Other people were just as interested in desegregating civilian life. Some of them started with sports. Because of its significance to American culture, baseball was the first team sport targeted for change. American baseball, which grew out of British ball and stick games like cricket and rounders, gained in popularity during the Civil War. By the end of the war, baseball was considered America's pastime. It seemed to represent all that was considered good about America: democracy, teamwork, fair play, excellence. It also represented America at its worst: divided, discriminatory, and unjust. Determined to end institutionalized discrimination in baseball, sports writers such as Wendell Smith of the Pittsburgh Courier, Frank A. Young of the Chicago Defender, Art Cohn from the Oakland Tribune, and Sam Lacey of the Baltimore Afro-Americans, and Shirley Povich of the Washington Post wrote daily articles on the injustice of segregation within professional sports. They appealed to the baseball commissioner, to the owners of teams, to the ball players themselves, and to the fans who supported the game. The questions these journalists raised went beyond the issue of race into the economics of the game. They asked, could baseball truly be considered America's pastime when black ball players and white ball players couldn't play on the same field? Could post-World War II teams afford to rebuild and be successful without including the enormous talent pool that existed within the Negro Leagues? Could the business of baseball grow when it was being accused of racism? Could the United States really consider itself a democracy if a portion of its population were denied basic human rights and opportunities simply because of the color of their skin? So here you have a predominantly African-American audience watching a baseball game, all right? And so the parks and the teams were segregated, all right? And on 25, we're going to visit this again tomorrow. I just want to point it out to you, and you guys can read it on your own. But over here, we have another timeline, all right? So tomorrow, we're going to kind of be comparing some timelines, but just wanted to show you what we're looking at here. It does not hurt to take a look at it yourselves, all right? So what I want you guys to do, I'm going to show you a couple, and I'm going to send this to you, all right? But I'm going to show you a couple just like newsreels, okay? So I'm not expecting you to be able to read all this. I just want you to kind of have an image of what's going on, all right? So you got all these are of Jackie Robinson, all right? And then you got another one. All right, this is his rookie year. All right, so you guys know, I mean, I'm not ruining anything for you in the story, that Jackie does break the racial barrier. That hasn't happened yet, all right? So I just want you to kind of keep that in the forefront of your mind. Now, you're going to have this page. This is directions, okay? So this task card is going to explain to you what I want you to do in the next step, and it's pretty simple, all right? So you're going to read a question strip. Now, I'm not going to assign that to you. I'm going to let you pick one, all right? You'll only have to do one, all right? And you're going to read that strip and think about what it means. There's going to be vocabulary words that are highlighted or like in bold, all right? And I want you to use really just your inferential vocabulary skills that you guys have been working on all year to try to figure out what those words mean, all right? How do those words help you think about this question, all right? And then think about what in this question the journalists were asking, what can you infer about their opinions, all right? So what do you think that question they're asking tells you about what they feel, what they think about this topic, all right? This idea of segregation in baseball. And then lastly, all right, on a page in your journal, all right, in a notebook, you're going to write an opinion sentence based on the journalist questions, all right? So the journalist questions are the next page down, and you just have to pick one of these, all right? I would love, what I would do, pick your favorite number between 1 and 4 and just go with that one, all right? That way we have a little diversity in the answers and whatnot. But these are the bold words you're going to try to figure out, see how it helps you, all right? Going to kind of figure out a gist statement, and then you're going to tell me, all right, the last step, all right, an opinion sentence based on the journalist question, all right? So you can be your opinion if you want, all right? Or their opinion, whatever you think it might be, all right? So just to give you some examples of opinion sentences, all right? Baseball is the most entertaining of all professional sports. The Jim Crow era was the worst period in American history. Jackie Robinson was an amazing baseball player. You see how these are all opinions? They're not necessarily facts, right? Entertainment, so I like baseball, but some people might find it really boring. My wife is one of them, all right? Jim Crow era was the worst period in American history. It was pretty terrible, all right? But I would say when slavery was around that was worse, all right? Jackie Robinson was an amazing baseball player. Pretty much true, all right? But maybe you look for different qualities. So all of these are opinions, all right? And that's what we're looking for, just your opinion, all right? So pick one of these strips, all right? You follow the directions above, and we'll go over that tonight, all right? In the meantime, all right, I know you guys are working on finishing up your writing drafts, all right? Email, screenshot, whatever you got to do, send those to me, all right? Because I'd like them by tonight. That way it gives me time to look them over. If there's any last-minute edits to do, I can give them to you this week, and you'll be done with my portion of it by Friday, all right? Nothing else to do. You'll be completely done, All right, so you guys have been doing great with this. Hang in there. All right, I'll be emailing this out shortly. All right, and then I'm going to make a short explanation of the history. We're continuing with the Reconstruction era, okay, but we're going to be doing a different web quest. It's pretty straightforward. All right, I'll show you guys how to click the links and all that, but that's the next video coming up. All right, talk to you guys at 4:30.